What could be more fun than copying from Mother Nature's playbook? Welcome, accomplices. I'm Lynda Norman. I'm a watercolor artist in the beautiful province of British Columbia. Today, we're taking a little example out of Mother Nature's playbook. We're going to add some shapes with some leaves that I've gathered from my garden, and add a bit of watercolor. Introduce the bits of greenery to the watercolors, and add a bit of maybe some negative painting, and see what we can come up with. Well, accomplices, I've been out in the yard plucking leaves and trimming bushes and finding lots of inspiration in the colors and the shapes and the changes that are happening because it's autumn. It's a beautiful time of year. It's so inspiring. The colors, the shapes. I just really love it. And I wanted to share with you one of the things that I've been playing around with. And let me just get it here. There we go. Oops, so I plucked a little handful of leaves and twigs and things from my yard, and had some fun painting them, using them as stamps on some watercolor paper, adding some colors, some shapes. The original thought was to use them as a background for other paintings, but then I started doing some negative painting around the leaf shapes. And these are rose leaves on this one, and I absolutely love it. I think this one's going to get framed. The other ones I'll spend some more time working on, but it's a lovely example of basically, I think, just 3 colors on this one, and just a bit of depth of color and some lovely natural shapes. So that was a fun experiment. So we'll share that today. I also want to share with you a quote that I read this morning, and I really thought it was quite amazing to think about. And it's kind of a directive, I suppose. And it says, go make stuff today. Make coffee. Make a ruckus. Make a difference. Make a memory. Make time for someone or something that you love. The world needs makers. I would add to that and say, make art. So that's something I'm going to keep in mind, and I can make a ruckus. I'm good at that. So I think I'll be living that quote for a while. These are the things that I love to share. I love to share them with my kids as well. They're of course all grown with kids of their own, and I share some of them with my granddaughters who are in their teens now. So it's really just fun to do that. And certain things I share with certain members of the family. I have 2 daughters and a daughter-in-law that I love all very dearly. And we have a little group, and it's called Just Us Girls. And so we share jokes and recipes and fun things back and forth. It's just another way that I just love to communicate. And it brings me back to why we're here and how we communicate, and how I can share with you, because of Lorenz's talent behind the camera and doing all the editing, how I can share with you my love for watercolor. So if I don't thank you often enough, I'm going to thank you again today for being here. It makes such a difference to our world when we can be creative and celebrate that. So I'm going to quickly get some color on this background, and my brush had a little bit of, pardon me, a little bit of an Aussie Red Gold from another project I was working on. This is 300-pound paper. I'm not really too concerned about what color is going down in the background. I just want a little bit of something, and I don't want it to be too wet because I'm going to be adding a lot more water and things to it. So I'm just going to get some wetness on the page. I see there's still some dry spots, but even that's okay. I'm going to look for a little bit bigger brush. This is going to be, the right size, I think, hopefully. And so I'm just getting a really nice bit of color, not a lot. I don't want this to be taking over, taking over the painting. You can see this. This is 300-pound, 100% watercolor paper. It's by Fluid, and it's a very soft paper. And I like that for the absorbency, but it does scratch. And I just nicked that with the tip of the ferrule on my brush here, and it made a little bit of a mark. So please be aware of that when you're painting, if you're using more delicate papers. So I just want the hint of a tiny bit of color, and it doesn't have to be even. I'm going to cover a lot of that up later. I just need to get something that's not stark white in the background. And again, if I cover this up with a matte before I frame it, I will be able to cover that up. I might even be able to cover it up with some of the design that I'm going to put in. So I'm just going to let that dry for a few moments. I don't want the background to be wet enough that it's going to, carry my watercolors that I add to it all over the place. So while I'm letting that dry a bit, I'm going to look at some of the greenery I have here. Now that could be a really pretty painting if we elaborated on that. So we might just have to do that. And this is from one of the trees in my backyard. I don't even know what it is. There's these as well. Those are quite pretty. We could also try a fern, but I think that might be a bit too detailed for this. These are hydrangea leaves. They would be really pretty in an arrangement. The other ones that I did were, this is a stilby. That's quite pretty. I think for today, I love this. I just love how that can just fill up that whole page. We could take a few more of the other smaller leaves and maybe something with a similar shape. Yeah, we do the hydrangea. I think might be a pretty addition to that. This is Bleeding Hearts. I think it's a bit too detailed, perhaps. So I think we'll stick with the hydrangeas, just to fill in a tiny bit of the. Oh my God, I knew there was a little one in there somewhere. I actually picked these yesterday, pardon me, and knew I wasn't going to get to them till today, so I sprayed them with a bit of water. So they're still in fairly good shape for this. Now the one that I showed you, the last example that I showed you here is the rose leaves, and that's what this is. And they have a fairly pronounced bit of veining on the back of them, so that worked really well for this idea. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint on the leaves with a fairly thick mixture of pigment, watercolor, and then I'm going to lay them down on the paper and let that image stay there. When I lift it off, I will have the imprint of the leaf there to work with. Oh, there is another hydrangea leaf. So I can, oh no, this isn't. This is a hollyhock leaf, and they are they're quite beautiful too. It was so hard for me to decide when I was out there looking around, but I don't see another hydrangea leaf in here, except for this nice big fat one, but I don't think that's going to work well with my design. So I just want something, yeah, I think we're probably good with that. I will set those aside. We'll work these in somehow. But I just kind of like how that configuration just kind of falls out across the page. Okay. I'm just going to put a bit of toweling down so I don't have my work surface really messed up. And I'm going to switch brush sizes, I think. Go back to my 3-line solo brush. These hold a ton of water and a ton of pigment. And I've got the Mayan Dark Blue in the background. I could, and I did actually, nope, didn't have it here. There it is. I started another background with more fall colors. You could certainly do something like this, but I think for simplicity today, we'll stick with just the lighter Mayan Dark Blue. And so my first impression that I want to make will be with Mayan Dark Blue. And I'll just, oops, give this a little more. I want this to be fairly thick, and I'm painting it on the back of these leaves because the veining is more prominent there, right? And this one has, oh, there's the tip. It's folded this way. See if the pigment will hold it out that way. I'm trying to get it as much on either end as I can, both the end that's closest to the stem and the tip end. And we'll get these on here. It's going to be a test, a trial, for you to decide how much water to add to your pigment to get this on. And I'm thinking probably the consistency of more on the side of a heavy cream. Remember, this surface that we had initially primed with our undercoat or first layer, first wash, is still going to be a bit damp. I don't want to do it when it's really wet because we want to be a little more specific. So let's get these out of the way. Bring our paper back into frame. So there's the back of the leaves, rather. Oh, and you know what I didn't do was I didn't put any paint on the stem. So we'll just do that. Got some water droplets or pigment droplets on the page. I'm not going to worry about that either, because we're just going to continue on. And we'll take these guys and, oh, my goodness, didn't mean to move that one. I'll put it back. And we'll flip the end out there, touch them down. This is not a precise exercise. We're just trying to get the basic shapes of these leaves down. How beautiful is that? Mm-hmm. Now I can go back in if I wanted to fill in more. I could add a bit more in there. And I'm not even going to go in and put more paint on at the moment. I'm just going to use what's on these leaves because they're still going to give us some nice, it's kind of awkward here. I want one to go that way, so I'm just going to go there. There. And let's just fill in this corner a little bit with some shapes. So these will continue to print. You can see there's still a fair bit of color on these leaves. Now I don't know that I would do much more of these shapes. They're fairly large. I'm going to just, for my design, see where I might want to add a couple more shapes. So I think I will try the hydrangea leaves because they have, I love the back of them. You can see how veined and how beautiful that is. So let's see if we can't get them into some spots where we've got some empty spaces. Ooh. The veining in those is absolutely gorgeous. And we'll try just a couple more. I think with this one here, I could probably try to make, yeah, that's quite pretty. Now let's try, I think, this little set of 3 or 4, actually. I didn't see that one poking out the side there. And let's, you know what I want to do is I want to switch colors. Now, if I use the Quinacridone Gold, it's going to be very, very bright. Let's go something a little more on the darker side as well still. And maybe we'll just try some Undersea Green. And we'll fill in a few. And then with the gold, I think I might want to try now that had blue on my brush still. Don't want a lot of color, but just a little bit of the gold. Let's see what happens if we put that on. It's quite wet. And they can overlap each other a little bit. I don't mind that. Just getting these veins. And I'm even going to try one with a little bit of Aussie Red Gold, just because they're, it's quite a beautiful color. And it's just a little more depth than the Quinacridone Gold. And I just want to fill in some of the spaces over top of each other. That doesn't bother me. And just a little bit more perhaps of the green mixed with the gold. Kind of gives you an earthy brown tone. Even my my towel here that I'm using to clean my brush off with is becoming quite beautiful, I think, with the colors of fall. And let's give another, do that one right over top of that orange. And I think, to me, that looks fairly balanced. I don't mind that. You could certainly go in with whatever color you wanted. There could be pinks and golds and purples, and the fall colors of fall are absolutely amazing. There's bright magentas and yellows, and some of the greens fade out to something quite, actually let's do that, quite lovely and light. I'm going to just work on a little bit of serpentine green, and we're going to get some of that moisture off there. And we'll just, I'm just getting the color on. I don't care that the leaves are overlapping the shapes. I'm going to define a couple of them at some point with some negative painting, and that will help to bring the design a little more together. And let's trying to keep in mind a little bit that the design is sort of flowing from top left to bottom right. But other than that, not a lot of rhyme or reason to where I'm placing these. Let's get another one over there. And I think maybe just one more green one up in the corner. Over on this side. Oh, that was pretty. Yeah, that green kind of sets everything off, doesn't it? I'm really pleased that some of the leaf shapes are quite defined. Some of them are less crisp, and that's okay. That is quite okay. And just because I've got this light green going here, this serpentine green, I'm just going to try to do another one of these triples, and just going to do it right up there. There we go. All right. Thank you, Mother Nature. These are going to be fun. Now the background has sort of faded off into nothingness. You can see a very little bit of it here and there. And that's great, because now I'm going to go in with, I'm going to put my 3-line solo brush away. And I'm going to go in with my Levinson 1.5 inch goat hair, goat synthetic blend it is. And clean up a little bit of this here. So my background colors now come into play. I want to see shadows. I want depth. I want some of the leaves to look like they're coming up to the surface more. And look at my hands; they're a mess. So I'm going to think about that. You know, I could go and try some of the super granulating paints that we have. Some of the Rockwell self-evolving paints would be maybe kind of pretty. I just have to think about that. I think probably at this point, because I've got the Mayan Dark Blue, I've got a little bit of the Undersea Green, I've got the Quinacridone Gold and the Aussie Red Gold, which are very similar, and the Serpentine. I'm going to, I think, be a little hesitant to add any other colors to this piece. So I'm thinking I'll probably start with, some Undersea Green, perhaps mixed with a little bit of the Mayan Dark Blue. Just a tiny bit there. So it's going to be a very dark color. And I'm looking for leaf shapes that I can go in and around. And define them a little bit. And I'm not going to fill in that whole space. I'm just hinting at where some of these shapes are coming from. I've laid that color down wet on dry, essentially. It's still a bit dampish. And then I'm just going to feather that out and bring it up to the next one in a lighter value. Okay. So it's a form of negative painting. It's kind of, you know, we're not starting with painting the outline or outside the outline. We are painting around the outline. So it is, as I say, it's a form of negative painting. And here's where I can go in and I can just kind of address some of those little indentations on the leaves. And if you can see that, where this has happened now, that the blue and the green together have diffused out into sort of a greeny gray color. And so that's given a level of shadow. Now I've got just the tip of my brush with some Mayan Dark Blue, and I'm going to go back in again and just into that wet paint and just sort of tease that edge a tiny bit. And I'm going to let that flow back out into that wettish gray-green area. So now I've defined this leaf shape, and it's elevated it because I've set that shadow. And I just want to bring that out, just blend that out so it doesn't look like a harsh line. But you can see now how that one little leaf has become front and center. It's sort of a silvery, bluey gray, which I kind of love. Just an aside, one of the things that I want to do is when I see the leaves at that stage of decay where they're nothing left but the veins and they're kind of web-like, I'm going to see if we can't work a project like that into our watercolors as well, because I do really love that. So I'm just going to keep an eye on this. Like I said, I don't want that dark blue line to be just a line. I want it to work its way out into the wetness around it. And then we'll continue on with that blue-green-gray mixture, I think, a little bit. And so this is what I'm going to do for the rest of the painting. I'm just going to go around to some of the lovely defined edges and just give them a little bit of a shadow underneath. And these are pretty close to the edge. I probably would have that, if I decide to frame it, I probably would have this covered with a mat, but it's good practice to get in there and just work on that jagged edge of that leaf. Lay in a tiny bit of this grayness, this blue-gray mixture. And you can use any brush, I think, for this, anything with a nice point, so that if you do want to go in and poke the darker color into the side of the leaves so it becomes, looks a little more serrated and irregular on the edge, then certainly any pointed brush will work for that, absolutely. So it's almost like doing a puzzle, right? You're just looking for the pieces and the edges, and then working out from there. Some of these leaves have a more serrated kind of edge, some are a little smoother. And some of this I'm going to do just a scuffle of the color wet over dry paper, so it gives that kind of scumbled look, so that there's a lot of the water showing through. So basically at this point you're using your paintbrush as a pen. You're just drawing around the edges. And I think with this gray-green color, I would just continue to find all of these edges and not elaborate on them a lot. Just so that they're a little more defined, and so then I can decide from there where I want to go in with my shadows, right? But this helps me define those spots between the leaf shapes. So any of your dark colors will work in this. You know, if you're using a lunar blue in down thrown, down thrown's kind of bright, but indigo, or even, you know, if you decided to go brighter with this whole thing, just take your darkest values and use them in key areas to outline some of your leaf shapes. The other leaves that you don't define as intensely will become part of the background, and you can go from there. If you know, if you're not using staining colors, then of course you can always go in with your dampish paper towel and dab out a tiny bit. That adds for more texture always. I think I just need to mix a little bit more of the Undersea Green and a little bit more of the Mayan Blue for some of our darks here. That's quite dark, but I think with the addition of some water and some blending out, it will work out quite well. Use the side of your brush to move things along. And just go back in, work your way around, go back over, find some other edges that you want to make darker. Pick a couple of leaves that you really want to bring forward and showcase. There's a couple here that are really quite beautiful and pronounced. I'm going to turn this right around here, and I think I want to work in this area here now. Just going to add a bit more green to that mix. Let's see where that takes us. So if I decide to define this little leaf here and pull that out, and this one here, and then we'll go over on this side a little tiny bit here. Rinsing my brush so that it's just got clear water on it, and now I'm going to pull those colors out. This is another way to do this. So you've got the dark color, because my mix was quite dark, around your edge, and then you can just pull it out and blend it into the rest of the shape that exists between the leaves. Now this leaf needs to have a bit of definition, so I'm going to go around it this way. And I think it needs a little, not that one, it needs a little encouragement. I think I just need to take some of this away, so I'm going to go with my little bright brush as a blender, as a remover. I'm just going to take some of that out of there and go back with my Mayan Dark Blue and just give this leaf a tiny bit of shape and definition. There. That's going to give me the look I want, I think, for that leaf. And then we'll go back over on this one. Twisting and turning and looking at all angles. And this kind of goes back to where, you know, how I always say at the end of a session or near the end of a session, I'll take a photograph of my work and take a look at it later, because when you look at it at a different angle, it's like using fresh eyes to see your work. This is a really fun exercise in in blending. And seeing what your paints will do when you add different levels of water and you allow them to move a little bit and blend a little bit. So we're just kind of tracing the outline of these guys a little bit. And it can be irregular how you put your darks in. And if it's wet into damp, it's going to move and leave some highlights for you as you go along. And if you don't like that, if it doesn't give you the look you're looking for, you can go back in and you can nudge those pigments and encourage them to move where you want them to go. I think for the rest of this one, I would try to follow the sort of the sweep of this branch part that brought these leaves into this design, and sort of encourage that, because that was the original thing that I really loved about this, was that flow of that initial branch that came through. And I'm probably not going to define each one of the leaves on that original branch, but I think if I was to do that one and maybe that one and that one, we'll see about these two. But that's sort of where I would carry on with this. And I hope you get the idea. I hope you get a feel for, how you can just find your little shapes and work with them. And as I've always said, Mother Nature is perfectly imperfect. And this, I think, allows you to be a little looser, a little more sort of able to go with the flow, let things flow out into the paper. Even if you just went around and defined each one lightly and then worked from there to add more color and to blend it out, you'll start to see things coming to the surface more and taking shape. If you have a shape where there looks like there could be a leaf, go ahead and give it a leaf shape. Give it some defining moments there, and so that's where I'm going to keep working with this one. Keep filling in those little spaces a little bit at a time until I decide which branches or which leaves are coming forward, and I'll give you a picture of the end of the finished piece at the end of the video. So give it a try. If you go to the park, go to your yard. If you don't have a yard, go to the neighbor's yard. Take a pair of snips and take a leaf or two and have some fun with it. Give some thought to placing the leaves, placing the colors, pulling out the shadow areas, and just have some fun with it. I think it's for me it's a very satisfying way to paint. It's a good exercise to get into the habit of doing some negative painting and some shaping, and it's something I think that I'll be doing a little bit more of as well. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel or visit my website, bandrystudio.com. That's BANDRAOI studio.com. Or head on over to our members area. We'll be having some fun there soon.